For millennia, the Galactic Empire ruled the stars unchallenged, its dominion spanning thousands of systems and billions of lives. It was a vast orderly machine, where rebellions were rare and quickly extinguished, and wars amounted to nothing more than brief displays of imperial superiority. The galaxy had learned long ago, resistance was futile. No species dared defy the Empire, not for long. Their military was unmatched, their fleets an unstoppable force, and their governance, though harsh, was absolute. To the Empire, the galaxy was stable, predictable, until humanity appeared. They had heard of humanity, of course, a minor species on the edge of the galactic frontier, confined to a single insignificant sector. The Empire's scholars noted their rapid technological growth, but dismissed it as a fleeting anomaly. The humans were primitive in culture, scattered across planets, and insignificant in the grand scheme. The Imperial Council labeled them as another curiosity in the great galactic tapestry, a footnote in the Empire's long history. When humanity's exploration fleet accidentally crossed into Imperial space, the Empire didn't see an opportunity for diplomacy. They saw a chance to demonstrate their might. A patrol fleet intercepted the human vessels, and an envoy was dispatched to deliver the Empire's ultimatum: submit to Imperial rule or face annihilation. The message was curt, laced with arrogance. Humanity's ambassadors, though respectful, attempted to negotiate, but the Empire's representatives interpreted this as hesitation, weakness. They didn't consider the possibility of resistance. Back on Earth, the message was received with gravity. Humanity was far from united politically, but the looming threat of annihilation forced unprecedented cooperation. Military leaders, scientists, diplomats, key figures from across humanity's scattered factions, gathered in secret to strategize. The ultimatum was clear: submit and lose their freedom, or resist and face extinction. The choice was no choice at all. One of the diplomats, a grizzled veteran of countless negotiations, leaned back in his chair after hours of heated discussion. "If they think we're going to roll over, they're mistaken." His voice was steady, resolute. The room fell silent as his words hung in the air. Across the table, a military strategist smirked and added, "Then let's make that clear." The decision was unanimous. Humanity's response to the Empire's ultimatum was brief, a single word transmitted across the stars: run. The message, incomprehensible to the Empire, sparked amusement rather than concern. High-ranking officials laughed as they reviewed it. Typical bravado from primitives, one of them sneered. The fleet commander assigned to subjugate humanity dismissed the warning outright. In their eyes, this was a routine operation, a show of force to remind a rebellious species of their place. They dispatched a single token fleet, a small detachment by imperial standards, to enforce compliance. Meanwhile, on Earth, preparations were underway. Humanity didn't have the luxury of arrogance. They worked tirelessly, mobilizing every resource, every ounce of ingenuity. The Empire saw only their scattered colonies and assumed disorganization. They didn't realize humanity had spent decades perfecting adaptive technologies, decentralized networks, and guerrilla strategies. As the Empire's fleet moved into position, humanity remained eerily silent. No cries for mercy, no desperate pleas. Just quiet, methodical preparation. The Imperial fleet's admiral, standing aboard the bridge of his colossal flagship, gazed at the blue-green orb of Earth with disdain. "Primitive savages," he muttered. "They'll bow before the day is done." What he didn't know was that humanity was watching, waiting. The Imperial fleet arrived in the Sol system with the confidence of a predator stalking an unwitting prey. Hundreds of ships, bristling with weapons, arranged in perfect formation, advanced toward Earth. Their admiral, seated on the command bridge, expected a swift and decisive victory. From the intelligence gathered, the humans lacked the military infrastructure to withstand even a fraction of the fleet's might. Resistance was expected to be token, if not entirely absent. The humans, however, had other plans. As the Imperial fleet closed in, Earth's defenses came alive. A coordinated series of electronic attacks disrupted the Empire's communications, throwing their formations into disarray. Moments later, human ships emerged from behind the moon, their cloaking technology rendering them invisible to Imperial sensors until it was too late. The ambush was devastating. Targeted strikes crippled several of the Empire's largest warships within minutes, and smaller human vessels darted between the lumbering Imperial behemoths, exploiting their lack of maneuverability. From the Empire's perspective, it was chaos. Their ships, designed for large-scale, predictable engagements, were ill-suited for humanity's fast, adaptive tactics. Precision strikes disabled critical systems, while relentless swarms of drone-like human fighters overwhelmed defensive screens. Within the first hour of battle, the Empire lost more ships than they had in any conflict in the last century. The Admiral, once dismissive, now barked frantic orders as his fleet struggled to regroup. Humanity's ingenuity was on full display. Their ships weren't built for direct confrontation. Instead, they relied on modular designs and adaptive AI coordination that allowed fleets to react instantly to changing conditions. While the Empire relied on centralized commands, humanity's decentralized approach meant no single target could cripple their strategy. They turned their environment into a weapon, using asteroid belts and orbital platforms to their advantage. The turning point came with the deployment of a new human weapon, an orbital array that channeled focused energy bursts capable of disabling Imperial shields with terrifying efficiency. The array, a product of decades of experimental research, shifted the balance of power. Imperial ships, once shielded by nearly impenetrable energy fields, now found themselves vulnerable. One by one they began to fall. Faced with mounting losses and dwindling morale, the Imperial Admiral ordered a retreat. It was a decision born of desperation, one that would stain his career for years to come. The remnants of the fleet fled the Sol system, leaving behind wreckage and unanswered questions. To the Empire, the battle was not just a defeat, it was an impossibility. Word of the disaster spread quickly. Within days, reports reached the Imperial core worlds, sparking panic among the ruling council. Meetings were convened in haste, with analysts and military strategists poring over battle data. The term human anomaly became a common refrain as they struggled to make sense of their defeat. How had a species so recently emerged from its homeworld outmaneuvered the greatest military force in the galaxy? Some called for an immediate and overwhelming response, advocating for a total mobilization of the Imperial fleet to crush the humans before they could become a greater threat. Others, more cautious, urged restraint, warning that underestimating humanity again could lead to even greater losses. The council was divided, their unity fractured by fear and uncertainty. For humanity, the victory was more than a reprieve. It was a rallying cry. Across the galaxy, oppressed species who had long endured the Empire's iron rule took notice. The defeat of the once invincible fleet sparked whispers of rebellion, of hope. Resistance movements began organizing, emboldened by the humans' defiance. On Earth and its colonies, humanity prepared for the next wave. Leaders called for unity, urging their people to remain vigilant. Scientists worked around the clock, refining technologies and devising new strategies, while diplomats reached out to potential allies among the galaxy's oppressed species. Humanity knew the Empire would return, and next time, it wouldn't be a token force. But for now they celebrated. Against all odds, they had struck a blow against the galaxy's most powerful empire. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Empire responded with unbridled fury. Humiliated by their earlier defeat, they mobilized a massive fleet, one that dwarfed the force sent to Earth. It was a show of power meant to crush any illusions of human resistance. Thousands of warships, escorted by dreadnoughts the size of small moons, advanced toward human space. This was no mere punitive measure. It was annihilation. The fleet's sheer scale darkened the skies of every human world it approached, and its advanced weaponry reduced entire colonies to ashes before resistance could even take form. The first wave of attacks struck humanity like a hammer blow. Outer colonies, lightly defended and far from Earth's stronghold, bore the brunt of the Empire's wrath. Millions of lives were lost in days, and the survivors could only flee toward the core systems. For the Empire, it was a campaign of overwhelming force, a lesson they intended to carve into humanity's history. For humanity, it was a test of their very survival. Despite the devastation, humanity adapted with astonishing speed. The Empire's approach, while brutal, was predictable. Human strategists identified weak points in the massive fleet's logistics. Supply lines stretched across light years became prime targets for sabotage. Small, fast ships slipped past the Empire's front lines, striking at fuel depots and munitions convoys. The Empire's over-reliance on centralized command proved another vulnerability. Human cyberattacks exploited their rigid hierarchies, sowing confusion and disrupting operations. In one pivotal engagement, a task force of human ships lured an Imperial fleet into a carefully prepared trap. Using decoys and falsified transmissions, they led the enemy into a dense asteroid field seeded with mines. The resulting ambush was devastating, with dozens of Imperial ships destroyed or disabled. The victory was hard-fought, and losses on the human side were severe, but it was a critical blow to the Empire's campaign. More importantly, it showed that humanity could not only resist, but also outthink the galaxy's greatest military power. Yet the victories came at a cost. Within humanity's coalition, tensions simmered. Some leaders argued for striking deeper into Imperial territory, even targeting civilian populations to force the Empire to the negotiating table. Others vehemently opposed such actions, insisting that humanity must hold itself to higher standards, even in the face of extinction. The debate grew heated as the war dragged on, and fractures within the coalition began to form. Morale wavered under the strain of endless battles and mounting casualties. Amidst the turmoil, humanity's leaders gathered to prepare for what they knew would come next, a final, decisive confrontation. Both sides were escalating, and the war was approaching a tipping point. As the meeting concluded, humanity broadcast a single message to the Empire: "Run while you can." It was both a warning and a declaration of intent. Humanity had no intention of surrendering. Instead, they prepared for a fight that would determine the fate of their species, and possibly the galaxy. The Empire's final assault was an unprecedented show of force. Hundreds of dreadnoughts, flanked by tens of thousands of smaller ships, descended upon Earth's orbit. From the Empire's perspective, this was the endgame, a conclusive blow to erase humanity from the stars and reassert their unchallenged dominance. The Imperial fleet's arrival turned the skies into a sea of metallic monstrosities, their weapons primed to rain destruction. Humanity was ready. For months, Earth's defenses had been fortified, and humanity's brightest minds had worked tirelessly to perfect their ultimate weapon, a coordinated planetary defense network powered by cutting-edge AI and experimental energy systems. As the first wave of Imperial ships moved into range, humanity's trump card was revealed. From hidden installations on Earth, the Moon and nearby asteroids, a barrage of energy pulses erupted, targeting the Empire's fleet. Shield-disabling beams, orbital railguns, and swarms of autonomous drones turned the assault into a maelstrom of fire and chaos. The battle raged relentlessly. Imperial ships, accustomed to overwhelming lesser foes, struggled to adapt to humanity's unconventional tactics. Smaller human vessels darted through the chaos, exploiting weaknesses and delivering precision strikes. For every human ship destroyed, 2 Imperial vessels fell. Despite the scale of the conflict, It was clear that humanity was holding its ground against impossible odds. Amid the chaos, humanity's resilience shone through. Soldiers fought not just for survival, but for the right to exist. Engineers, working in underground bunkers, repaired critical systems under constant bombardment. Commanders made split-second decisions that turned the tide of skirmishes. One such moment came when a human captain, facing an incoming dreadnought, sacrificed their ship to create a chain reaction that destroyed several Imperial warships. The act was both devastating and inspiring, rallying human forces and demoralizing the Empire's fleet. Humanity's unity stood in stark contrast to the Empire's unraveling structure. The rigid hierarchy of the Imperial fleet proved a liability, as human strikes targeted key commanders and communication hubs. With their leadership in disarray, Imperial forces began to falter. Meanwhile, humanity's decentralized command allowed them to adapt and coordinate seamlessly, even in the heat of battle. The turning point came when humanity launched a daring counteroffensive, sending a fleet of stealth ships deep into the heart of the Imperial Armada. Their mission: to destroy the flagship, where the Empire's High Admiral coordinated the assault. Against overwhelming odds, the human fleet breached the Imperial defenses. As the flagship exploded in a blinding flash, the Empire's forces were thrown into complete disarray. With their command shattered and losses mounting, the Empire's fleet retreated, leaving behind smoldering wreckage and unanswered questions. It was a defeat unlike any they had ever known. The invincible Empire had been brought to its knees, its aura of supremacy shattered. In the aftermath, the galaxy watched in awe. Humanity's triumph sparked a wave of rebellion across Imperial space, as oppressed species rose up against their overlords. On Earth, celebrations were tempered by the immense cost of victory. Leaders from across humanity gathered to chart a new course, one that embraced the lessons learned from their shared struggle. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity not as a footnote, but as a force to be reckoned with. The Empire's defeat marked the dawn of a new era, one shaped by the indomitable spirit of humanity. The war was over, but its scars remained. In the quiet aftermath of battle, humanity's leaders convened to reflect on their hard-won victory. The room was somber, despite the triumph. The cost of the war had been immense. Millions of lives lost, countless colonies reduced to ash, and a galaxy left in turmoil. The victories they had achieved felt bittersweet, weighed down by the sacrifices that made them possible. "It's not over," one of the military commanders said, breaking the silence. "The Empire will retreat, but they'll be back. Stronger, smarter." The room nodded in grim agreement. There was no delusion that the battle had ended the conflict entirely. Humanity had shattered the Empire's sense of invincibility, but not its capacity for vengeance. Earth itself bore the scars of the final assault, and rebuilding would take years, if not decades. In the Empire's core worlds, the aftermath of the defeat rippled like a shockwave. Once proud leaders who had scoffed at humanity's resistance now faced harsh realities. Their fleets were decimated, their resources stretched thin, and their citizenry no longer viewed them as omnipotent. For the first time in millennia, the Empire retreated into itself to rebuild, its confidence shattered. Whispers of rebellion echoed across its vast territories, and formerly subjugated species saw the cracks forming in the once mighty regime. Amid the galactic chaos, humanity emerged not as conquerors, but as liberators. They reached out to species long oppressed by the Empire, offering aid and protection instead of domination. The bonds formed during the war grew into alliances, as former slaves, refugees, and rebels aligned with humanity. These new allies brought their own strengths and technologies, enriching humanity's efforts to rebuild and prepare for the future. Together, they began laying the groundwork for a galactic coalition, one that valued freedom and cooperation over tyranny. Humanity's reputation transformed overnight. Where once they were underestimated and dismissed, they were now seen as a force capable of toppling even the greatest power in the galaxy. But more than their strength, it was humanity's willingness to share their victory and extend a hand to others that solidified their newfound role. They were protectors, yes, but also reminders that even the smallest spark could ignite a fire strong enough to challenge the stars. Before withdrawing fully, humanity sent a final message to the Empire. This time it was more than a cryptic warning. It was a declaration, plain and unyielding. We warned you. Next time, we won't just make you run. The message carried a dual weight. It was both a deterrent and a promise. The Empire would have to decide if its future lay in rebuilding to crush humanity or in pursuing a path of coexistence. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the Empire's response. On a quiet ridge overlooking a devastated battlefield, a lone human soldier gazed at the stars. The scars of war marked their armor, and the weight of what they had endured reflected in their eyes. They thought of the sacrifices made, their friends lost, and the uncertain future ahead. For all their strength, humanity was still vulnerable, still learning what it meant to hold a place among the stars. But there was hope. The soldiers' lips curled into a faint smile as they considered the alliances forged and the resilience humanity had shown. The stars no longer felt cold and distant. They felt like a promise, a testament to what humanity could achieve. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. They had proven their worth, not just in strength, but in spirit. And as they prepared for whatever came next, they carried with them a truth carved from the crucible of war. Humanity would endure, no matter the odds.